Hey guys, welcome to my How to Support series, and this will be a weekly series where I'm going to be going over different support topics, trying to raise the IQ of players. This week we will be doing how to roam correctly as a support to stop you from getting flamed from your team. I break this down into 3 steps. This is one that I follow, and it's sort of just like a checklist to make sure if you're doing good. So the first step in roaming is your lane in a good state to roam? The second is the lane you are roaming to in a good state? And the third is it actually safe for you to roam right now? These are the 3 questions I ask myself every time I roam, and you must make sure all those conditions are true, and if they are, usually it's an okay time to roam at the very least. I hope you guys enjoy this. It's broken down in timestamps going over each of these segments, and yeah, enjoy. So the first part of how to roam correctly is your lane in a good wave state? So what does this actually mean? What is a lane state? A lane state is how the minions are in the lane and which direction they are moving. So in my opinion, there's only 2 states in lane. There is minions pushing and minions frozen. In general, those are the 2 states. The waves can either be pushing to the enemy or pushing to you, or it can be frozen on either side. The good rule of thumb is you only usually want to roam when the wave is pushing to you or frozen for you. This is because if the wave is pushing towards you, your ADC can stand under tower, which makes it very hard for the enemy to get him. Even if the wave is over here, but slow pushing to you, your ADC can simply give up 1 or 2 CS and wait till the wave hits him under tower where he can be safe. The same goes for a frozen wave where your ADC can sit by his tower. On the other hand, if the wave is pushing to the enemy, you can get a point where the enemy ADC can stand here, the support can sit over here by the bush, and your ADC is over here, unable to touch a wave that's over here and permanently pushing to the enemy, at which point your ADC will fall behind and he will get very angry and most likely rage at you. So I'm going to show you how to get a good lane state right now so that you can roam. So the good general rule of thumb in League of Legends is to get a wave pushing to you, all you have to do is simply push the wave into the enemy tower. This is because the enemy tower will kill it, and when the next wave comes in, it will be staggered and come in first. So I will demonstrate for this to you very quickly here by getting a minion wave in and then pushing it in. So give me 1 second here to just push this wave in. Oh, it's a cannon wave. It's just harder to demonstrate because the enemy tower won't be able to kill cannons as quick. Alrighty, a regular wave. So let me kill the minions here and shove it into tower, and you will see what happens when a wave hits tower. Again, this is a really important fundamental to League, and even if you're not a support watching this is important for any lane on how to create a slow push. So as this wave hits tower, you as a support can now roam. You can walk towards mid, and as you're walking towards mid, you can see what happens. This wave here starts building up, and they start bunching up in a ball. And as the wave comes and connects, you will see this 1 minion out in front getting attacked by every single minion at the same time. That makes this minion die quicker and makes this wave slow push in. On another note, the next wave when it comes in to reinforce will come first. So while I've been left and I'm over here, now your ADC can just stand back over here and wait for the wave to come to him because it always will come to him. And you can go for a free gank on an enemy mid laner and possibly get first blood. Whether you get first blood or not, after you get the roam, you can start heading back bot. And by the time you get bot, as you can see the next wave coming in first to connect and help push, you can be bot by the time the enemy wave comes. Now this was obviously a wave with no help, but if the enemy ADC was here helping push the wave, as I'm getting back bot right now, me and my ADC can be here as the enemy is just connecting to tower, and your ADC cannot die. So again, just to go over this rule of thumb on wave states is you only want to roam when the wave is pushing to you, because as you can see, your ADC can give up a couple CF and stay back and wait till the wave collapses over here, at which point he can start farming again, and at which point hopefully you're back. So is the wave pushing to you, or is it frozen for you? The other question is, how can you create a slow push towards yourself? Push the wave into tower and then either roam, or you can push the wave into tower, reset for boots or something, and then roam. This is another very key thing that a lot of supports do that I find don't do in lower elos, is after you back, you always almost have an opportunity to roam. The only time you can't roam after a back or a push is if the enemy bot lane has a potential to dive your ADC. If it's a Leona and a Lucian and they're going to push on your ADC under tower, then you can't leave. But if it's like a Soraka and like, I don't know, even a Varus, you can leave your ADC for a bit while you roam. Anyways, I hope this guys helped you with the wave state and what it means to have a good lane state. Remember, just one more recap, the first rule for roaming is your lane in a good state? And the answer is if the wave is pushing to you or frozen, then it is an okay time for your lane to roam. And how do you achieve this state? You achieve it by shoving the wave into tower, which creates a slow push towards yourself. Is the lane you are roaming to in a good gankable state? And what I mean by that in short is it worth your time to go? So if you have this first step where your lane is in a good state to roam, you can then look at your lanes. Is it worth it to back and roam top? Is it worth it to just shove the wave and go straight mid? These are questions you have to ask. So again, going back to lane states, you have to look at it and look at what champions is. To start, if it's something like a LeBlanc mid, it can be very hard to gank unless if you're watching and the LeBlanc is using her W on cooldown. That is because she is a very mobile champ and you might be just wasting your time and you might be better off staying bot. But in general, again with the lane states, is if the mid lane is pushing towards your mid laner and your mid laner is back here and the enemy mid laner is here, then it might be, whoopsie, reverse, it might be worth it for you to roam. Because if you come to roam, now the lane is in a gankable spot where you can come from behind and look for a play. In the same time, if the wave state is that the enemy mid laner is under tower and your mid laner is pushed up, it may not be worth your time to roam. And this is what I mean by the second step is the lane state in the lane you're roaming to good? If you come to mid in this point, the odds of you getting a kill are very low. As we showed in the first part, you may have had a good lane state bot lane and your ADC may be safe, but you have to remember that still at this time, you are giving up pressure in your lane where you could be harassing and getting damage down, and your ADC might have to give up 2 to 3 CS in this time. So is the roam worth the 2 to 3 CS for your ADC and worth you giving up lane pressure? That is a question you have to answer. I will say it's not always as black and white as positioning. Of course, in general, if your mid laner is over here and the enemy mid laner is here, this is when you usually would want to be ganking mid. But again, if this is a LeBlanc who's playing defensively, it may not be worth your time. Another point is if your mid-year laner's wave is over here, but the enemy mid laner has created a freeze and your mid laner is unable to break this freeze by themselves, this could also call to being a good time for you to just come mid, help your mid laner break the freeze so that your mid laner can get a good recall and come back bot. I will say in lower elos, when I do this play sometimes, my mid laner gets pissed and they don't understand that I'm coming to help them just get a good reset. But these are just questions you have to ask yourself when you're playing, is if it's a good lane state. So again, a recap for tip number 2 is the gank your lane you're going to gank in a good wave state? And again, it goes back to the state is usually you want your mid laner to have the wave frozen or pushing towards them for you to gank. But at the same time, again, if your mid may need you to help shove in, then maybe it's still a good time to roam. And the same thing goes with top lane too. If you shove a wave in bot, you are going to have enough time. If you shove it in back, you can go straight top and then roam back bot and be bot by the time your ADC is about to get dove. So again, if top has the wave frozen here or it's pushing to them, then it's a good time. But if you back and you see that the wave is pushing towards the enemy top laner, then it's not going to be a good time to roam. The final question that you must ask yourself before you roam is it actually safe to roam? So again, step 1, you have a good lane state to roam. You just shove bot lane in and you see mid lane is shoving into them. So question 1 and 2 are answered. You have a good wave management and the enemies is bad. So it is good to roam. Now you're asking yourself, are you safe to roam? This comes to basically a question of where the junglers are. So first, there's your jungler. Is your jungler on the bot side of the map or is he on the top side of the map? If your jungler is on the bottom side of the map and you just shoved a wave in bot, you are usually good to roam. If you ping you're going on your way and you're walking up river and all of a sudden the enemy jungler jumps out of this bush at you, you have your jungler close by so that you can 2v1 the enemy jungler and hopefully both your mid show up and it'll be a 3v2 scenario. So this is a good time to roam when your jungler's on the bottom side of the map and you are usually safe. On the other hand, there's the scenario where your jungler can be on the top side of the map. If your jungler is on the top side of the map, there's now a new set of questions you need to ask yourself. If your jungler is on the bottom side of the map, it didn't matter if you knew where the enemy jungler was, because if you ran into the enemy jungler, your jungler was going to be close by to help. But if your jungler is on the top side of the map, now is where you have to start wondering if it's worth the gank, because if it's safe. If the enemy jungler is on the bot side of the map and you walk down and run into the jungler, your mid laner will not be able to help because he is basically pushed in because you made sure to only roam when he was pushed in, and their mid laner is going to be able to help and you're going to get 2v1, even though you probably won't be able to 1v1 their jungler. So if your jungler is on the top side of the map and you don't know where the enemy jungler is, of course if you know the enemy jungler is in the top side of the map, then you can do this. But if you don't, it means to roam, you're going to have to take a very safe path. Instead of going through the river, you might have to go here and avoid this bush and around, which is why usually if you were roaming and you shove a wave into tower and you don't know where the enemy jungler is and your jungler is on the top side, usually the safest bet is to just recall mid, get yourself a pair of boots, And then to roam mid, you can go straight through the middle of lane like this and cut off only when you're close to the lane so that you're at a very low chance of getting caught by the enemy jungler. But again, it's always a risk if you don't know where the enemy jungler is. Again, on the same time, you could also then just roam to your top side where your jungler is and then gank mid through the top side where you're safe if the enemy jungler runs into you. You're with your jungler. So anyways, let me just go back to the basics and tell you so we can wrap it all up, as this was the last step. So the first step was that you had a good lane state pushing to the enemy, so you were able to roam. Ideally, you just shoved a wave into tower, now you can roam. Second, was there any lanes that are gankable? You look at mid and top and see if there's either a gank worth your time, anything you can do to help them, or if it's actually just a terrible time to roam and not worth it. And the final question was, is it safe to actually roam? Which is honestly one of the most important questions. If you leave and bot's in a bad lane state, your ADC might get mad at you and may lose to yes, but it's not the end of the world. If mid wasn't gankable and you ended up wasting your time, it wasn't the end of the world. But if you don't do this third step and you roam when it's not, like when you're not safe and get killed, this can put your lane, both the lanes you were roaming to, behind, and it can put yourself behind. So again, to wrap up how to know if it's safe to roam, is there are two questions. Do you know where your jungler is? And do you know where the enemy jungler is? The first question is more important, is where your jungler is. If your jungler is on the bot side of the map and you just shove bot in, you are almost always safe to roam, as your jungler can help you if you get caught. If the jungler is on the top side of the map, then you have to usually shove and then recall and then roam to the top side of the map and gank mid or top while you're near their jungler. If you don't know where the enemy, if you do know where the enemy jungler is and he's on the top side of the map and your jungler's on the top side of the map, is the only time you can actually roam and gank if your jungler's on the top side of the map. I hope this video wasn't too confusing. If it was, let me know and I can try to improve. Again, this is my how to support series. I'll be doing one topic per week, going through different things in lane phase like positioning, warding, and going into the mid game, doing again a lot of the same types of videos but for different stages. Let me know if there's a specific video you guys want me to do next. I hope you guys enjoy it, and subscribe, like, and comment. Thanks, guys.